The red and blue lights painted the quiet suburban street in violent strokes. Maya Hartwell's hands rested on the steering wheel, visible, steady. Her ivory blazer caught the harsh glow from the patrol car behind her. Officer Derek Brennan approached with theatrical authority. His hand rested on his belt, swagger in every step. He tapped her window twice, sharp and impatient. License and registration. His voice carried across the silent street. Mind telling me what you're doing in this neighborhood? Maya's jaw tightened. She reached slowly for her glove compartment, movements deliberate. I live 2 streets over. Is there a problem, officer? Brennan leaned closer, eyes scanning her car's interior. This your vehicle? Suspicion dripped from every word. Seems pretty nice for... He caught himself, but the damage hung in the air. She handed him her documents. Her gaze remained forward, controlled. For what exactly? He ignored the question, studying her license under his flashlight. His partner, Officer Mills, emerged from the second patrol car. The two exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Step out of the vehicle, ma'am. Brennan's tone shifted, harder now. We need to verify some information. Maya's fingers curled slightly. 23 years on the force taught her this moment. Her father's voice whispered through memory. Control the moment. Don't let them control you. She opened the door. The night air hit her face, cool and sharp. Across the street, a porch light flickered on. Then another. Brennan called into his radio, voice loud enough for gathering neighbors. Suspicious vehicle. Driver acting nervous, requesting backup for verification. Maya stood beside her sedan, hands visible, her heart hammered but her face remained stone. Mills circled the car, peering through windows. The street filled with whispers. Phones rose, red recording lights blooming in the darkness. Maya caught a young black girl's terrified stare from a nearby lawn. She held the child's gaze. A silent promise passed between them. Brennan smirked at his partner. Let's see what we've got here. 6 hours earlier, Maya had stood before her bathroom, mirror, adjusting the ivory blazer for the 3rd time. The fabric felt foreign after decades in standard police blues. Her apartment was modest. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors that creaked, photographs covering every surface. Her father's face stared from the largest frame. Sergeant James Hartwell, decorated, dignified, dead 15 years. First day, Dad. She touched the glass briefly. Wish you could see this. The promotion announcement had come yesterday. Chief of Police, first black woman to hold the position in the city's 140-year history. The council vote was unanimous, but she'd felt the hesitation in some handshakes. 23 years had led to this moment. Academy training where instructors questioned if she'd make it physically. Patrol shifts where partners requested transfers. Detective work where her collars were scrutinized twice as hard. Sergeant, Lieutenant Captain, each rank earned through excellence that couldn't be denied. Her phone buzzed. A text from Captain Raymond, one of the few who'd supported her climb. Department's ready for you. Make us proud. Maya made coffee in her small kitchen. Through the window, the city stretched. Her city now. She'd walked these streets as a rookie, responded to domestics in the South End, busted dealers near the harbor, knew every neighborhood's heartbeat. The ivory blazer hung on her chair. She'd chosen it deliberately. Professional, confident, impossible to ignore. First impressions mattered, especially when you were making history. Her father's badge sat in a shadow box beside her new chief's shield. He'd taught her everything, how to read a scene, how to de-escalate, how to lead with integrity when the system pushed you toward compromise. He'd died responding to a domestic call, doing the job right until the end. I'll do it your way, she whispered to his photo. With dignity, with fairness. She grabbed her keys and folder marked Confidential Departmental Review. Inside were personnel files she'd requested, officers with multiple complaints, patterns of misconduct buried in bureaucracy. She planned to address them carefully, build consensus, reform from within. Maya locked her apartment and descended to her car. The sedan was 3 years old, well-maintained, purchased with saved overtime pay. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed new chief. She drove through morning traffic, reviewing her first-day speech mentally. Unite the department, restore community trust, hold everyone accountable, including herself. Standard goals, but she meant every word. The route took her through neighborhoods that reflected the city's diversity, immigrant-owned shops, historic black churches, gentrified brownstones, all of it hers to protect now. She didn't notice the patrol car following 3 blocks behind. Didn't see Brennan noting her expensive vehicle in a changing neighborhood. Didn't know he'd been complained about 7 times in 3 years for exactly this kind of stop. Maya simply drove toward her future, unaware prejudice was already tracking her. Brennan's flashlight beam cut across Maya's face. She blinked but didn't flinch. Mills circled her vehicle slowly, hand resting on his weapon. "Ma'am, we're going to need to search the vehicle." Brennan's tone left no room for discussion. "Standard procedure for this area." Maya's voice remained level. "On what grounds? I haven't committed any violation." "Suspicious behavior. You were driving slowly, looking at houses." His reasoning sounded rehearsed. "Could be casing for burglaries. I was driving the speed limit, I live here." Each word precise, controlled. "You have no probable cause." Brennan stepped closer, invading her space. "You refusing to cooperate? Because that changes things real quick." Across the street the crowd had grown. 6, 7, maybe 8 neighbors. Phones glowed in the darkness, all recording. An elderly white woman clutched her robe tighter. A Latino man shook his head slowly. Mills opened her passenger door without permission. "Clear on this side." Maya's jaw clenched. "You're conducting an illegal search. I'm an attorney." The lie came automatically, self-preservation. "I know my rights." "Attorney, huh?" Brennan's laugh was ugly. "Lot of attorneys driving through here at night." "Lot of stories." He radioed dispatch again. "Running a full check on the vehicle, possible stolen property." The words hit like a slap. Maya's hands trembled slightly before she controlled them. Her father's voice again. "They want you to react. Don't give them the satisfaction." Mills pulled out her briefcase, papers scattering across the pavement. Her confidential folder landed face up. Departmental review, visible in bold letters. He barely glanced at it. "What's this? Some kind of fake ID operation?" Brennan picked up her actual driver's license, squinting. "Maya Hartwell. Address checks out, but that doesn't mean..." "Doesn't mean what?" Maya's voice cut through. "Say what you're thinking, officer. Let these cameras hear it." Brennan's face reddened. "I'm thinking you're being uncooperative. I'm thinking there's something off about this whole situation." A third patrol car arrived, lights adding to the carnival atmosphere. Sergeant Torres emerged, 30-year veteran with silver threading his dark hair. He'd been at yesterday's promotion ceremony, standing in the back, applauding politely. Torres froze mid-step. His eyes went wide, recognition dawning. He looked from Maya to Brennan to the scattered documents. "Jesus Christ," Torres whispered, too quiet for Brennan to hear. He approached slowly, like walking toward an explosion. Brennan continued his performance. "We're just ensuring public safety. Nothing personal." He addressed the crowd now, justifying. "Can't be too careful these days." The young black girl from earlier tugged her mother's sleeve. "Mama, why are they being mean to that lady?" Her mother's face was tight with familiar pain. "Because, baby, just because." Torres reached Brennan's side. Derek, stop." "Almost done here, Sarge. Just processing the..." "Look at the documents, Derek." Torres's voice carried weight now. "Actually look at them." Brennan glanced down, annoyed. His eyes skimmed the scattered papers. Registration, insurance, the confidential folder. His gaze stopped, backtracked, stopped again. The blood drained from his face. Maya watched the recognition hit Brennan like a freight train. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound emerged. She stood perfectly still on the curb, hands clasped in front of her. Inside, a storm raged. 23 years of moments like this, different streets, different officers, same assumptions. Her father pulled over for matching a description. Her brother stopped 6 times in 1 year. Her own academy classmate asking if she'd slept her way through detective certification. Control the moment. The young girl still watched from across the street, her mother's arm around her shoulders protectively. Maya saw herself at that age, watching her father humiliated during a traffic stop. She remembered his dignity, how he'd never raised his voice, how he'd explained later that some battles required patience. You fight the system from inside, he'd told her that night. You become excellent. You rise, you change it piece by piece. She'd followed that path for 2 decades, and now, on the day she'd finally reached the position to make real change, she'd been stopped and searched on her way to her own police headquarters. The irony would be funny if it didn't hurt so much. Mills backed away from her vehicle, suddenly fascinated by his shoes. Torres stood frozen, calculating the damage already spreading through phone recordings. Brennan's face had gone from red to white, sweat beading his forehead despite the cool night. Maya felt the weight of every watching eye. This moment would define something. She just wasn't sure what yet. She could play it safe, minimize conflict, let them call it a misunderstanding. Or she could let the lesson land exactly as hard as it needed to. Her father's voice, "Don't let anger guide you. Let purpose." The ivory blazer felt heavier now, soaked in symbolism she hadn't intended. She'd chosen it to look professional, approachable, human. Instead, it had marked her as suspicious in her own city. Maya met the young girl's eyes again across the shadowed street. In that child's terrified gaze, she saw every black woman who'd ever been made to feel small, every officer who'd abused the badge, every system that protected the wrong people. She made her decision. Sometimes the lesson must land hard. 23 years ago, Maya Hartwell was 17 when blue lights painted her father's face. For the last time he'd allow it without consequence. They'd been driving home from her high school graduation ceremony. Sergeant James Hartwell, decorated officer, 20-year veteran, pulled over for matching a description of a robbery suspect. He'd been wearing his dress uniform. Maya sat beside him in her cap and gown. The officer had been young, aggressive, demanding. James had remained calm, produced his badge along with his license. The young officer's demeanor shifted immediately, from aggressive to apologetic, from certain to stammering. Afterward, in their driveway, her father hadn't been angry. He'd been instructive. "That's what we're fighting, Maya." He'd kept his dress uniform on, let the moment teach. Not bad people. Bad systems. Systems that tell that young officer to see threats instead of humans. Systems built on assumptions that have nothing to do with character. She'd been accepted to 3 universities, full scholarships, pre-law track. Her future spread before her, bright and certain. "I'm joining the academy," she'd announced that night. Her mother had cried. Her father had simply nodded, understanding. "Then you do it right. You rise through excellence they can't deny. You become the change." The academy had been brutal. Not the physical training, she excelled there. The whispers were worse. Diversity higher, filling a quota, let's see how long she lasts. She'd graduated top 15%, combat certified, commended for crisis intervention. Patrol was harder. Partners who requested transfers, supervisors who questioned her calls, citizens who demanded real officers. She'd responded with flawless work, pristine reports, 0 complaints, commendations for valor, detective at 29. Sergeant at 33. Each promotion fought tooth and nail. Each rank requiring twice the excellence of her peers. She'd worked gang violence, homicide, internal affairs, built a reputation for thoroughness and integrity that even her critics couldn't attack. Lieutenant at 38. Captain at 42. Her father died when she made captain. Heart attack responding to a domestic call. His last words to dispatch, victim secure. Send medical for the husband. He de-escalated until the end. Yesterday, Chief of Police at 45. 23 years of preparation. The council chambers had been packed. Supporters, skeptics, media. The mayor had praised her exceptional record and community connection. She'd planned to enter her first day with grace. Build bridges, reform carefully, earn trust before demanding change. Instead, Officer Derek Brennan had handed her something far more valuable than a graceful entrance: clarity. Clarity about how deep the rot went. How officers like him survived multiple complaints through willful blindness. How the system she'd navigated so carefully had failed the communities it claimed to protect. Her father's lesson echoed, "You become the change." Now she would. But not gently. Torres's voice cracked through Brennan's paralysis. "Derek, she's the new chief of police." The street went silent. Even the cicadas seemed to pause. Mills's face drained of color. He stepped back from Maya's vehicle as if it had caught fire. Brennan's hands shook. The license trembled in his grip. Chief? No, the chief isn't supposed to start until today." Maya's voice was ice. "I start today. Right now, in fact." The gathered crowd shifted. Phones angled for better shots. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Another voice, "He's done." Torres moved into damage control mode. "Chief Hartwell, I apologize for this misunderstanding. If we could—" "Misunderstanding?" Maya's tone could cut glass. "Sergeant Torres, tell me what part was misunderstood. The illegal stop? The unauthorized search? The assumption I'd stolen my own vehicle?" Brennan finally found his voice. "Chief, I was just standard procedure. I didn't know— You didn't know my rank." She stepped forward, each word deliberate. "But you knew I was a black woman in what you consider the wrong neighborhood. You knew that before you ran my plates, before you searched my car, before you scattered my confidential documents across this street." Her folder lay open on the pavement. Personnel files visibles. Complaint records. Brennan's own file sat 3 pages in, his name highlighted. Torres saw it. His face went gray. Maya bent slowly, gathering her papers. Every movement controlled, powerful. The crowd watched in absolute silence. She straightened, holding the folder against her chest. 7 complaints in 3 years, Officer Brennan. She didn't need to check the file. She'd memorized it. All from minority drivers, all dismissed as miscommunication or routine procedure, all ignored by supervisors who found it easier to look away. Mills backed toward his patrol car. Torres stood frozen, calculating his own exposure. He'd been watch commander for 2 of those complaints. He'd signed off on the dismissals. Brennan's voice emerged as a whisper. "Chief, I'm sorry. You didn't need to know who I was." Maya's words carried across the street, firm and clear. "You needed to treat me like a human being, like a citizen, like someone who deserves basic respect and constitutional rights." She paused. "But you didn't. And these cameras recorded every moment." The young girl's mother was crying silently. The elderly white woman had lowered her phone, shame crossing her face. A teenage boy pumped his fist quietly. Torres made one more attempt. "Chief, if we could discuss this at the station, Sergeant Torres, you and Officers Brennan and Mills will report to Internal Affairs at 800 hours tomorrow." Maya's command voice emerged, refined through 2 decades. "You'll provide full statements. You'll surrender your body camera footage. You'll cooperate completely." She turned to Brennan. He looked like he might vomit. "You wanted to search my vehicle thoroughly, officer." "Here?" She tossed him her keys. They landed at his feet. Search it. Document everything, because in 12 hours, I'll be documenting exactly what kind of department I inherited. And you've given me the perfect place to start. Brennan didn't pick up the keys. His career ended in that moment, and everyone watching knew it. Maya walked to Torres's patrol car. Sergeant, you'll drive me to headquarters. These officers can finish their investigation. Torres scrambled to open the door. Maya slid into the passenger seat, ivory blazer pristine despite everything. Through the window, she caught the young girl's eye one final time. She nodded. The girl nodded back. The patrol car pulled away, leaving Brennan and Mills standing in the red and blue lights, surrounded by witnesses and recording phones, the weight of their choices settling like concrete. Torres drove in absolute silence. The radio crackled with routine calls. Domestic dispute, noise complaint, traffic accident. Normal night, except nothing was normal anymore. Chief, he started twice, stopping both times. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. There's no excuse. I should have caught it earlier. Should have reviewed. How many complaints did you dismiss, Sergeant? Maya's gaze remained forward, watching the city pass. Not just Brennan's, all of them. How many times did you choose the easy path? Torres's jaw worked. Too many. I told myself they were just misunderstandings, communication problems. I thought... He exhaled. I thought I was protecting the department's reputation. You were protecting officers who abused their authority. She turned to face him now. While destroying the department's reputation with every community that matters, they pulled up to headquarters. The building loomed, 4 stories of brick and glass, the city seal visible even in darkness. Lights blazed from multiple windows. Word had already spread. Torres parked but made no move to exit. For what it's worth, Chief, your father would be proud. James always said the system needed people willing to fight from inside. Maya's expression softened fractionally. You knew my father? Trained under him my first year. He was... Torres's voice caught. He was everything a cop should be. I forgot that somewhere along the way, got tired, got lazy, started taking the path of least resistance. He looked at her directly. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. She studied him. Saw genuine regret, genuine shame. Also saw potential, an officer who remembered what the job should mean, who might be salvaged, retrained, redirected. Tomorrow, 0800 hours, internal affairs, full cooperation. She opened her door. After that, we'll see if there's a path forward for you. But make no mistake, Sergeant, this department is changing, with you or around you. Torres nodded. Yes, Chief. Maya stepped out onto headquarters parking lot. Through the glass doors, she saw figures moving, officers waiting, watching, judging. Some would support her, some would resist. Most would wait to see which way the wind blew. She straightened her ivory blazer and walked toward the entrance. The automatic doors slid open. Captain Raymond stood in the lobby, flanked by 2 lieutenants. His face was grim. Chief, we've been monitoring the situation. He gestured toward a conference room. The union rep wants to speak with you before this goes any further. Does he? Maya's tone made it not a question. He's calling it a misunderstanding. Says Brennan's record shows 7 complaints that were buried. She walked past him toward the conference room. Get the union rep. Get internal affairs. Get anyone who wants to be part of the solution. Because in 30 minutes, I'm calling a department-wide meeting. Raymond blinked. Chief, it's nearly midnight. The press is already... Exactly. The press is already watching. So we show them transparency. We show them accountability. We show them what leadership looks like when it has nothing to hide. She paused at the conference room door. Starting right now. Inside, the union rep sat with Brennan's file open. He looked up as Maya entered, his expression carefully neutral. Chief Hartwell, Frank Sullivan, union representation. I think we can resolve this quietly. Officer Brennan made an error in judgment, but nothing. Maya remained standing. He conducted an illegal stop and search. He violated my constitutional rights. He demonstrated a pattern of behavior this department has enabled for 3 years. Sullivan's jaw tightened. With respect, Chief, destroying an officer's career over one incident sends the wrong message. The message I'm sending is simple, Mr. Sullivan. The badge comes with responsibility. When that responsibility is betrayed, there are consequences. She leaned forward, both palms on the table. Your job is to ensure fair process. My job is to ensure justice. Let's not confuse the two. The door opened. Torres entered, followed by Mills and finally Brennan. The younger officer looked physically ill. Brennan wouldn't meet her eyes. Maya straightened. This moment mattered, not just for her but for every officer who'd looked to her leadership, for every citizen who'd judged whether this department could change. Gentlemen, she began, let's talk about what happens next. The conference room felt too small. Brennan sat hunched, Mills beside him looking ready to bolt. Torres stood near the door at attention. Sullivan, the union rep, had his notepad ready, defensive posture clear. Maya remained standing. Power dynamics mattered. Officer Brennan, tell me what you were thinking. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. Walk me through your decision-making from the moment you saw my vehicle. Brennan's voice came out hoarse. I saw an expensive car driving slowly. Areas had some break-ins. I thought... He stopped. I made assumptions, wrong assumptions. Based on what? She pushed. Not cruel, but relentless. What factors influenced your decision to initiate the stop? Silence. The air conditioning hummed. Through the door, voices. Drifted officers gathering, words spreading like wildfire. The driver, Brennan finally whispered. I saw you were black. I assumed you didn't belong. The admission hung between them. Sullivan tensed, recognizing the legal exposure. Torres closed his eyes. Mills looked at his hands. Maya absorbed it. The honest acknowledgement she'd waited 23 years to hear from someone in uniform. It didn't make it better, but it was real. Thank you for your honesty. She meant it. Now here's what's going to happen. Internal Affairs conducts a full investigation. You're suspended pending the outcome. If the investigation confirms what we all witnessed, your career in this department is over. Sullivan started to protest. Maya raised a hand. But here's what else happens. I review every dismissed complaint from the past 5 years. Every officer with patterns similar to Officer Brennan's. Every supervisor who enabled this culture by looking away. Her gaze found Torres. Everyone who chose convenience over justice. Raymond appeared at the door. Chief, the department's assembling. Media's requesting a statement. The mayor's office has called 3 times. Tell them I'll address everyone in 10 minutes. She looked back at Brennan. You have a choice now. Cooperate fully, acknowledge the harm caused, help me understand how this culture developed. Or fight this, and watch me expose every systemic failure that made tonight possible. Brennan's shoulders shook. My career is over either way. Probably. But your integrity doesn't have to be. Maya moved toward the door. Think about what kind of person you want to be when this is done. She walked into the hallway. Officers lined the walls, some ashamed, some angry, many uncertain. The viral video had reached the building ahead of her. Everyone had seen it. Everyone was calculating what came next. Captain Raymond fell into step beside her. Chief, you're making enemies fast. The Union will fight this. Officers will close ranks. Change doesn't happen overnight. I know. She kept walking toward the main briefing room. But corruption that took years to build can be dismantled in an instant when there's will and transparency. The briefing room doors stood open. 50 officers inside, more gathering. Media cameras aimed through the windows. the young black girl's terrified face flashed through Maya's memory. Her father's voice, "You become the change." She stepped to the podium. The room fell silent, every eye locked on her ivory blazer, now a symbol of everything broken and everything possible. Maya gripped the podium edges. "My name is Chief Maya Hartwell. 2 hours ago I was illegally stopped, searched, and humiliated by officers of this department." She paused, letting it land. "And now we're going to talk about why that happened, what it means, and how we fix it, starting right now." In the back row, Brennan's closest friend reached for his phone. His text went to 3 dozen officers simultaneously. "She's declaring war. Choose your side." The message spread. Some officers nodded at Maya's words. Others' faces hardened, resistance forming. Torres watched from the doorway, caught between past loyalty and future conscience. Outside, the viral video hit 1 million views. News vans multiplied. The young girl's mother wrote a Facebook post that would reach 50,000 people by morning. "I watched them humiliate her. Then I watched her become their boss. Maybe there's hope after all." Maya continued speaking, unaware of the digital firestorm, focused only on the officers before her. "This department can change," she said, "or it can collapse under the weight of its own corruption. You decide which future you want to build." Maya sat alone in her office at 2 a.m. The chief's badge lay on the desk, heavy and cold. Through the window, the parking lot was empty except for a single patrol car, the night watch supervisor making rounds. The department meeting had ended an hour ago. Some officers left quietly supportive. Others walked out in silent protest. Captain Raymond warned her that the Union was mobilizing, preparing for war. Her phone buzzed continuously. News requests, supportive messages from community leaders, hate mail from anonymous accounts calling her a race baiter and worse. The video had 5 million views now, trending nationally. She'd wanted to reform carefully, build consensus, earn trust before demanding change. Instead, her first hours as chief had detonated like a grenade. Her father's photograph sat beside the badge. She traced his face with one finger. "Did I do this right, Dad? Or did I just destroy any chance of real change?" The silence answered with doubt. Maybe she should have handled it quietly, let Brennan resign peacefully, avoided the spectacle. She'd been humiliated and responded with public confrontation. Was that justice or revenge? The ivory blazer hung on her chair, wrinkled now, stained with the night's chaos. She thought about burning it, never wearing it again, or keeping it as reminder of this moment. Through the window, dawn approached slowly. The city would wake to headlines. The department would fracture. And she'd have to lead through the wreckage she'd created. But then she remembered the young girl's face, the mother's tears. The 7 dismissed complaints. The pattern nobody wanted to acknowledge. Maya picked up her father's photo. "I'm doing it your way, Dad, even if it hurts." Something hardened inside her. Not anger, purpose. She opened her laptop and began typing the memo that would reshape everything. Morning broke over headquarters. Maya hadn't slept. The memo sat complete on her screen. 18 pages outlining immediate reforms, mandatory retraining, and investigation protocols for all pending complaints. Captain Raymond arrived at 6 a.m., coffee in hand. He stopped at her open door, taking in her rumpled appearance. "You've been here all night." "So have you." She nodded at his wrinkled uniform. "Come in." He sat heavily. "The union's filing a grievance. Brennan's lawyer is talking about lawsuits. 3 officers requested transfers, and the mayor wants to see you at noon." "Good." Maya turned her laptop toward him. "Read this." Raymond scanned the document, his expression shifting from concern to surprise to something like respect. "This is comprehensive, ambitious. It'll cost money we don't have." Then we find it. "Federal grants for community policing. Reallocate from military equipment we don't need. Make it work. She leaned back. I need allies, Raymond. Officers who remember why they took this job. Can I count on you? He was silent for a long moment. My daughter's black. My son-in-law gets stopped 3 times a year for looking suspicious. I became a cop to protect people. Somewhere I forgot that meant all people. He met her eyes. You can count on me. The relief was physical. Then help me identify others, officers with clean records. Good community relations. People we can build around. Torres wants to talk to you. Raymond's voice was careful. He's been up all night, too, going through his old cases, looking at complaints he dismissed. Maya considered. Torres had enabled Brennan's behavior, but he'd also shown genuine remorse. Transformation was possible, if the person wanted it badly enough. Send him in after our briefing. And Raymond? Thank you, he stood. Don't thank me yet. This gets harder before it gets easier. At 7 a.m. Internal Affairs arrived. Maya handed over the dash camera footage, her own documentation, and the complete complaint history. The lead investigator, Lieutenant Chen, reviewed everything with meticulous care. This is damning, Chen said quietly. Brennan's finished. Bill's probably too. Torres might survive if he cooperates fully. I want thorough, not fast, Maya instructed. Every procedure followed perfectly. Because when this goes to hearing, I want 0 room for appeal. At 7:30, Torres knocked. He looked like he'd aged 5 years overnight. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His uniform was fresh, but his hands shook slightly. Chief, I've prepared a full statement for IA. He handed her a folder. Every complaint I mishandled. Every warning sign I ignored. Every time I chose the easy path. His voice cracked. I'm prepared to accept whatever consequences. Sit down, Sergeant. Maya gestured to a chair. She read through his statement. 19 pages of brutal self-assessment and documented failures. This is honest, she said finally. Painful but honest. My father was a cop, Torres said quietly. Puerto Rican kid in the 70s. Dealt with everything you can imagine. He taught me the job could be noble. Could mean something. I forgot that. Started protecting the badge instead of the people behind it. He looked at her directly. I want to remember. If you'll let me. Maya thought of her own father. Of second chances and redemption. Of the difference between officers who refused to change and those who genuinely wanted to be better. You'll cooperate fully with IA. You'll undergo retraining. You'll mentor new officers in the reformed protocols. She paused. And you'll help me identify every other Torres in this department. Good officers who got lazy, who need reminding what the badge means. His eyes glistened. Yes, Chief, thank you. Don't thank me. Earn it. The formal hearing convened 5 days later. The conference room was packed. Internal Affairs board members, union representatives, Brennan's attorney, media observers approved by the city council. Maya sat at one end of the long table. Brennan at the other, pale and diminished. His lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Kowalski, had clearly prepared for battle. Lieutenant Chen presented the evidence methodically. The dashcam footage played on the wall screen. Brennan's tone, his assumptions, the illegal search. Each moment more damning than the last. Officer Brennan was performing his duties, Kowalski argued. Perhaps with imperfect judgment, but within standard operating procedures for high-crime areas. Maya spoke for the first time. Lieutenant Chen, please display Officer Brennan's complaint history. The screen changed. 7 incidents over 3 years, each one documented with civilian statements, witness accounts, and dismissed findings. The pattern was unmistakable. African-American driver in each case, similar language, similar justifications. Standard operating procedure. Maya's voice was ice. This is systemic harassment enabled by supervisors who refused accountability. Kowalski shifted tactics. My client made mistakes. He's willing to undergo additional training, sensitivity courses. Your client revealed who he is, Maya interrupted. This isn't about training. It's about character. About officers who see citizens as threats instead of humans. A board member, Deputy Chief Morrison, leaned forward. "Chief Hartwell, how do we know this incident wasn't exaggerated? That it's not simply a what?" Her tone could cut steel. A new chief being oversensitive. "Playing the race card?" She stood, commanding the room. "Let me show you something else." Chen loaded a new file. Traffic stop data from the past 3 years. The statistics were brutal. Black drivers stopped at 3 times the rate of white drivers. Searches conducted at 5 times the rate. Arrests for disorderly conduct and resisting disproportionately high. "This isn't about one officer or one stop," Maya continued. "This is about a department culture that allowed prejudice to flourish. That protected officers like Brennan while ignoring community complaints." She turned to Brennan directly. "Tell them what you told me." "In the conference room that first night. About your assumptions." Brennan's lawyer started to object. Brennan raised a hand, stopping him. The young officer's face was drawn, haunted. "I saw she was black. I assumed she didn't belong in that neighborhood. I assumed the car might be stolen. I assumed," his voice broke, "I assumed she was a criminal before I ever spoke to her." The room went silent. Even Kowalski looked stunned. "How many other officers share those assumptions?" Maya asked the board. "How many stops are based on skin color disguised as suspicious behavior? How many complaints were dismissed because supervisors found it easier than accountability?" Morrison cleared his throat. "Chief, what are you proposing?" "Complete departmental review. Every dismissed complaint reinvestigated. Mandatory implicit bias training. Body camera footage reviewed randomly for quality control. Community oversight board with real authority." She paused. "And zero tolerance for prejudice, explicit or implicit." The union rep stood. "You're asking us to second-guess every officer's judgment, to create an environment of fear and suspicion." "I'm asking you to create an environment of justice," Maya cut him off, "where officers treat all citizens with dignity, where complaints are investigated honestly, where the badge means protection, not oppression." Another board member spoke. "The cost of these reforms, the cost of not reforming is higher," Maya countered. "Federal investigations, consent decrees, lawsuits, community trust shattered beyond repair. We can change voluntarily or have change forced upon us. I'm offering the voluntary path." Chen presented the final evidence, video from that night, filmed by neighbors. It showed everything. Brennan's swagger, the illegal search, Maya's controlled dignity. The moment recognition hit. It showed the young girl watching frightened. It showed a community witnessing injustice with nowhere to turn until the truth revealed itself. The board deliberated for 40 minutes. Maya waited in her office, Torres and Raymond flanking her. The silence was heavy with possibility and dread. Chen emerged. "The board has reached a decision." They filed back into the conference room. Morrison read the findings. "Officer Derek Brennan is hereby terminated for cause. Officer Mills is suspended pending additional review. Sergeant Torres receives formal reprimand and mandatory retraining." He paused. "Additionally, this board recommends adoption of Chief Hartwell's proposed reforms to be implemented within 90 days. Brennan's face crumpled. His lawyer closed his briefcase, already calculating appeals. Mills looked relieved to escape with suspension. Torres stood straighter, accepting his consequences. Morrison continued. "Chief Hartwell, this board acknowledges the gravity of what occurred and the courage required to address it publicly. You have our support in rebuilding this department." Outside the windows, a crowd had gathered. Community members who'd followed the case. The young girl stood with her mother holding a sign. "Thank you, Chief Hartwell." Maya saw her through the glass and felt something release in her chest. Not victory, this wasn't about winning. But purpose, validation, proof that standing firm mattered. Brennan stood, escorted out by Chen. He paused at the door, looking back at Maya. No words passed between them. Just acknowledgement of the moment that changed everything. The room emptied slowly. Maya remained, staring at the evidence still displayed on the screen. Her father's voice echoed, "You become the change she had." And the department would never be the same. 3 months later, Maya walked through headquarters at shift change. Officers greeted her by name now, some warm, many respectful, a few still cold. But the open hostility had faded, replaced by cautious acceptance. The reforms were in place. Implicit bias training had begun, taught by community leaders and psychologists. Body camera review protocols caught 2 officers with problematic patterns. Both were undergoing additional training. The Community Oversight Board had held its first meeting, contentious but productive. Torres had become her unlikely ally. He ran the retraining programs with reformed zeal, mentoring younger officers about accountability. Mills had been reinstated after demonstrating genuine change, assigned to community outreach, where his performance was monitored closely. Brennan was gone. Working private security somewhere, his appeal had been denied. His name became shorthand in the department. Don't pull a Brennan meant don't let assumptions guide your actions. Maya entered the briefing room where new recruits were being sworn in. 20 fresh faces, diverse group, eyes bright with idealism not yet tested by reality. She addressed them simply. "You're joining at a moment of change. This department made mistakes. We're fixing them. Your job is to be part of the solution, to see every citizen as deserving dignity, to use force only when necessary, to remember the badge is a responsibility, not a shield." After the ceremony, Captain Raymond approached. "Community satisfaction numbers are up 12%. Complaint rates down. Federal review team was impressed." He smiled. "Turns out accountability works. It's a start." Maya watched the new recruits with their families. Long way to go. That evening, she drove through the neighborhood where Brennan had stopped her. The street looked different now, quieter, safer somehow. Or maybe she just saw it differently. She pulled over at the same spot. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. Reclaiming the space where humiliation had tried to break her, a car pulled up behind her. Maya tensed automatically, then relaxed as she recognized Torres in an unmarked vehicle. He approached her window. "Chief, everything okay?" "Just thinking." She gestured at the street. 3 months ago, I was just another black woman who didn't belong. Now I'm trying to make sure no one else feels that way." Torres nodded. "Your father would be proud." "Hell, I'm proud of you, of what we're becoming." He paused. "Thank you for giving me the chance to be better." After he drove away, Maya sat for another moment. Her phone buzzed. A text from the young girl's mother. "Shayla wants to be a police officer when she grows up. Because of you. Thank you for showing her what's possible." Maya stared at the message, eyes stinging. She thought of her father, of his patient belief that systems could change from within, of the long road she'd walked to reach this moment. The ivory blazer hung in her closet now, cleaned and pressed. She wore it sometimes, not as a symbol of trauma but of transformation. Of the night everything broke open, and something new became possible. She drove home through her city, past the neighborhoods she protected, the communities she served. The badge in her pocket felt lighter now. Or maybe she'd just grown stronger carrying it. Maya stood at her office window, as sunset painted the city in gold and shadow. 3 months since the night that changed everything. 3 months of battles fought, resistance overcome, small victories earned. The work wasn't finished. Prejudice didn't disappear because one officer was fired, or one policy changed. But the conversation had shifted. Accountability was real now. Officers knew complaints would be investigated honestly. Citizens knew their voices mattered. She thought about Brennan sometimes, wondered if he understood what he'd lost that night. Not just his career, but his integrity. Wondered if he'd learned or simply grown bitter. She hoped for the former, but accepted she'd never know. Torres had told her yesterday, "You could have destroyed me too. Thank you for believing redemption was possible." She'd reminded him that belief had to be earned daily. through actions that matched words. The young girl, Shayla, had visited headquarters last week with her class. She'd asked Maya what it took to become chief. Maya had answered honestly, excellence, patience, courage to stand alone when necessary, and belief that people and systems can be better than they are. Her father's photograph sat on her desk, permanent now. She spoke to it sometimes when the weight felt heavy. You taught me the job could be noble, Dad. That fighting from inside mattered. I'm still fighting, still believing it's worth it. The ivory blazer hung visible in her closet, a reminder of vulnerability and strength. She'd been humiliated that night, reduced to assumptions and stereotypes, but she'd refused to be diminished. Had turned degradation into transformation. Not everyone would face what she faced, but everyone faced moments where they chose between silence and speaking, between accepting injustice and challenging it. Those moments defined character, shaped communities, built futures. Maya picked up her badge, turned it over in her hands. The metal was cool, solid, heavy with meaning. She'd earned it through years of excellence, defended it through one night of humiliation, and now she honored it by holding everyone, including herself, to the standards it represented. Outside, the city prepared for night. Patrol cars rolled out for evening shifts. Officers she'd trained, retrained, and sometimes fought with. Not perfect, but better. Trying harder, seeing citizens instead of threats. The reforms would continue. The resistance would persist. Progress would be measured in inches, not miles. But inches mattered. Small changes compounded into transformation. She thought of Brennan's question from that night. What are you doing in this neighborhood? She'd answered with silence then. Now she'd answer differently. I'm doing what I've always done, what my father taught me, what this badge requires. I'm protecting and serving. All people, equally, without exception. Maya turned from the window. Tomorrow brought new challenges, a contentious budget meeting, a community forum, ongoing training sessions. The work never ended, but neither did her commitment to it. She locked her office, badge secure on her belt, her father's words guiding her forward. You become the change. She had. And she would continue becoming it. Every day, every decision, every moment the job demanded her best self. They tried to make me small. Instead, I became their chief. And that changed everything. Not just for me, but for everyone who comes after.